There is a secret that has been whispered through the corridors of time, spoken by sages and hidden within sacred writings, yet overlooked by most who wander the earth seeking gold. This secret is not buried in the ground, nor locked in a chest of jewels. It rests quietly within the heart and mind of every man and woman, waiting to be remembered. The world calls wealth a matter of labor, inheritance, or fortune, but these are only shadows of the greater truth. The forgotten riches are not merely possessions, but the unseen supply, a river that flows to those who awaken to its law. In every life there are moments when one feels the pull of unseen abundance, like a dream half remembered. It is the sense that one is destined for more than daily toil, that beyond the veil of worry and lack lies a boundless field of provision. The forgotten secret is that this is not imagination. It is memory. The soul remembers what the mind has forgotten, that wealth is not earned in sweat alone, but called forth by thought, word, and faith. The world, in its blindness, teaches that prosperity comes from effort, from struggle, from climbing the mountain of competition. But the ancient law whispers otherwise. The universe is not stingy, it is lavish beyond measure. One blade of grass gives rise to fields. One apple seed brings forth orchards, and one breath of faith can multiply into riches untold. To see this is to remember the forgotten secret, that riches are not scarce, they are infinite, and they answer the one who believes. Those who forget this secret chase after wealth, like a man chasing his own shadow. The faster he runs, the farther it flees. But those who remember stand still, turn toward the light, and the shadow falls at their feet. Wealth does not arrive by desperate striving, but by recognition of its ever-present supply. When one speaks within, I am already provided for. The doors of supply swing open. The forgotten riches reveal themselves, not as future promise, but as present reality. The secret has been forgotten because fear has veiled it. Fear whispers that money is hard to earn, that supply is limited, that others hold the keys to your fortune. Fear binds men and women to labor without joy, hoarding without trust, desiring without fulfillment. But the law of life declares the opposite. Supply is abundant, money flows as freely as air, and each soul is heir to wealth unmeasured. To cast out fear is to remember the riches. When a man believes lack is real, he calls it forth. He may have treasures in the bank, yet live in secret poverty, fearing its loss, clutching his possessions with trembling hands. Such a one has forgotten the secret. True wealth is not in the coin, but in the consciousness that produces coin without end. A man who remembers the law of abundance could be stripped of every possession, and yet, overnight, wealth would rise to meet him again, for he carries the secret within. The forgotten riches lie in the vibration of thought. Thoughts are seeds cast into the unseen soil of spirit. Each thought of fear grows into weeds of lack. Each thought of trust, gratitude, and vision grows into fields of wealth. The man who tends his garden wisely, sowing only thoughts of supply, soon walks among the harvest of his words. This is the ancient mystery. One need not struggle to force wealth into being. One must only plant rightly and trust the law to bring forth in due season. Consider the lilies, how they toil not, neither do they spin, yet they are clothed more richly than kings. This is the forgotten lesson. The universe adorns even the flower of the field. How much more shall it provide for the soul that believes? To align with this truth is to step out of worry and into remembrance. One must declare, the supply that clothes the lilies clothes me also. The riches that fill the earth fill my life as well. In this remembrance, fear dissolves and abundance flows. The forgotten secret is also found in gratitude. Gratitude is the song that unlocks hidden treasures. Many look at their little and mourn its smallness, thus shutting the door on greater supply. But the one who gives thanks for the little multiplies it into much. Gratitude is a magnet for riches, When the heart sings over a single coin, more coins rush to join the chorus. Gratitude remembers what fear forgets, that wealth is already present, already given, already overflowing in ways unseen. Another key to the secret lies in the power of imagination. Imagination is the womb of creation. What one sees within, one shall hold without. Yet the world calls imagination a child's game, forgetting its divine authority. The riches of every empire, the gold of every mine, the palaces and ships and treasures of the ages, all first lived in imagination before they stood in form. The one who dares to imagine wealth, who dares to see abundance with inner vision, summons it from the invisible to the visible. Imagination is the brush that paints riches onto the canvas of life. Many walk past this treasure daily, blind to its power. They live in houses built by other men's imaginations, wear clothes designed by unseen visionaries, and use tools forged in the mind before they touched the hand. Yet they doubt their own inner sight. The forgotten secret is to remember that one's own imagination is the key to personal fortune. To picture wealth, to dwell upon it with faith and joy, is to set unseen forces in motion, drawing supply from every corner of creation. The secret is also guarded by the principle of release. To clutch tightly is to lose. To release is to gain. When one fears loss and holds too tightly, the hand cannot receive more. But when one releases with trust, whether money, gifts, or kindness, the circle of supply begins its return. The forgotten riches respond to the open hand, not the clenched fist. Generosity is not loss but investment in the law of abundance. That which is given in trust returns multiplied, and the giver remembers the secret that cannot be bound. It is said that wealth belongs only to the few, but the law reveals otherwise. Wealth belongs to all who remember the secret. The air does not belong to one man, nor the sunlight to one nation, nor the rain to a single field. So too wealth is the inheritance of all, flowing endlessly to those who align with its law. The forgotten riches are democratic, impartial, ever available. Only disbelief bars the way. To remember is to inherit, to believe is to receive, and to trust is to see the unseen supply made visible. The forgotten secret is this: you are already rich. The wealth you seek is not ahead of you, waiting to be earned, but within you, waiting to be expressed. The outer world is only the reflection of the inner. If lack appears without, it is only the mirror of doubt within. If abundance appears without, it is the reflection of faith within. The secret is not in chasing wealth, but in remembering the truth of wealth. Already alive, already flowing, already yours. Those who rediscover this truth often find that wealth arrives suddenly, as if overnight. What seemed blocked for years bursts open like a dam, and blessings pour forth without measure. Yet the suddenness is not accident. It is the natural response of the law once remembered. The riches were never lost. They only waited for the soul to awaken, to speak the word of abundance, to cast out fear and dwell in trust. Overnight, the harvest comes, not because it was absent, but because the reaper at last remembered to gather what was his all along. There is a mystery in the way wealth moves, a rhythm beyond the comprehension of ordinary thought. Many believe riches must come slowly, through years of labor, sacrifice, and delay. They toil endlessly, expecting prosperity to crawl toward them in fragments and crumbs. Yet there exists another path, a higher law, by which supply may appear suddenly, as if from nowhere. Wealth can come as swiftly as dawn follows the night. This is the forgotten law of overnight transformation, the truth that prosperity can be born in a moment when the soul aligns with the divine order of supply. Overnight does not mean without foundation. Just as the seed lies in the dark earth for a season before spring bursts forth, so too do unseen forces prepare the way long before the eye can perceive them. When the change comes, it seems instantaneous. One day, there is barrenness, the next day blossoms. One day a man counts his coins with anxiety, the next he holds more than he can spend. The transformation is not slow when the law is remembered. It is sudden, decisive, and often beyond human explanation. The world has trained minds to expect delay. It whispers. It takes time to build wealth. You must wait for opportunity. You must climb the ladder step by step. These are chains forged by doubt, the higher law declares. What is yours comes quickly. Supply is never delayed, only your recognition of it. To awaken to this truth is to remove the barrier. And once the barrier is gone, the flood rushes in with swiftness that startles the one who receives. Overnight, the barren field becomes fruitful, because in spirit, it was always fruitful. The suddenness is only the unveiling of what has always been present. The overnight transformation begins within, in the consciousness of supply. A man may live years in poverty because his thoughts dwell on lack, his words confess fear, and his imagination paints pictures of struggle. Then, in a moment, he remembers the law. He speaks differently. He thinks differently. He sees differently. The change in consciousness is the key, and the outer world hastens to match the inner. When the mind shifts, the outer circumstances obey, and the change that took place invisibly within bursts forth visibly without. This is why wealth can come suddenly. As if in an instant the unseen change was already made, and the visible world must follow. There are countless tales of this sudden turning. A woman who longed for prosperity struggled in vain, holding tightly to fear, until one day she released her doubt and declared boldly, "My supply is here and now." That very night, a letter arrived containing the money she needed. A man who had labored under debt remembered at last that the universe is abundant, and that debt is not his reality. He chose to speak words of freedom, and within a day, a forgotten account was paid, wiping away what had bound him. Such stories are not accidents. They are the operation of the overnight law of transformation. The overnight change does not come from force or strain. It is not won by effort but by surrender. Many think that to be rich one must wrestle with the world, conquer, and accumulate by might. But the higher path reveals that the moment one ceases to struggle, wealth rushes in, to stop chasing, to stop doubting, to rest in the certainty that supply is already given. This is the surrender that opens the gate. Once the gate opens, the supply moves as quickly as lightning across the sky. Overnight, the weary soul finds itself in a new land. One of plenty and ease. It is not the length of time, but the strength of faith that determines manifestation. One may hope for years with weak, wavering thoughts and see little. Another may stand firm in a single night of absolute trust and awaken to overflowing blessings. Faith is the great accelerator. It collapses years into moments. The universe does not measure time as men do. It responds to vibration. When the vibration is right, the manifestation is immediate. This is the secret behind the overnight transformation, the alignment of inner belief with the eternal law of supply. The suddenness of wealth often astonishes, yet it is natural. Consider how the morning appears. The night lingers long, and one may think the darkness endless, but in a single moment, the horizon is painted with light, and the world awakens. The dawn was inevitable, and its appearance sudden. So too with prosperity, lack may seem long, the shadows may appear unbroken, but in a moment, the dawn of wealth arrives. The one who trusts in this law is not surprised when it comes, for he knows that what appears sudden is only the flowering of a seed planted long ago in thought and faith. The overnight transformation also carries with it a lesson of readiness. Supply may come suddenly, but the heart must be prepared to receive it. There are those who ask for wealth, but are not ready to hold it. They still cling to fear, to resentment, to doubt, and these are holes in the vessel. The law does not withhold, but the unready soul cannot contain the abundance. When one purifies thought, releasing jealousy, envy, or greed, the vessel is mended, and the sudden flood of riches can be held without loss. To be inwardly prepared is to make way for the overnight blessing. Gratitude plays a central role in this swift unfolding. The man who gives thanks for the smallest gift proves himself ready for greater. Gratitude is a signal sent to the unseen, declaring, "I am prepared to receive more." When one gives thanks not only for what is visible, but for the unseen supply already moving, the overnight change hastens. Gratitude transforms waiting into fulfillment. It carries the vibration of abundance, and abundance rushes toward it without delay. It is often said that wealth builds like a slow fire, but the higher truth is that wealth may strike like a spark that ignites a great blaze. One opportunity, one connection, one idea, one moment of faith, these are the sparks that ignite. Overnight transformation. The man who lives in expectancy, who walks in trust, carries his torch ready. When the spark arrives, the blaze of prosperity bursts forth without hesitation. He does not ask, "How long must I wait?" He declares, "It can happen now." And by that declaration, he hastens the unseen into the seen. The overnight law also teaches that nothing is too great to appear suddenly. Men often think small, believing perhaps a modest gift may come quickly. But that great wealth must take time. This is forgetting the limitless nature of supply. The law of life knows no difference between small and great. To the infinite, there is no effort in bringing forth a coin or a fortune, a single door or 1,000 doors of opportunity. What limits the manifestation is not the law but the belief of the receiver. The one who believes that great wealth can appear overnight will see it. For the law is impartial, responding to faith without measure. The transformation may come by means unseen. A sudden idea that leads to fortune, an unexpected message that brings opportunity, a forgotten debt repaid, a gift from a source never considered. These are the channels by which supply may appear. The law does not require effort to force the channel. It only requires faith to allow the channel. Wealth comes from directions the human mind could never design. This is why the change seems miraculous, for it bypasses expectation and arrives in ways that confirm the unseen is at work. The overnight transformation carries a gentle warning to hold fast to faith even when the night seems longest. Many give up just before the dawn. They abandon trust at the hour when the gates of supply are ready to open. Patience is not waiting in despair, it is resting in certainty. To rest in certainty is to know that wealth can arrive at any moment, and that moment may be the next. Such expectancy is the posture of faith that brings overnight change. Thus, the secret of overnight transformation is not in striving, but in remembering, not in laboring, but in aligning. The one who believes in lack shall see lack, and the one who believes in swift supply shall see swift supply. The law is unchanging, but the speed of manifestation bends to the vibration of the soul. When the heart, the word, and the vision are joined in harmony with abundance, the shift is immediate. The barren place becomes fruitful. The empty hand becomes full. The long night of want gives way to the sudden dawn of wealth, and what once seemed distant arrives in the space of a single night. There is a law older than the stones of the earth and more enduring than the stars in the sky. It is the law of inner speech, the secret commandment of creation. Every word spoken within the silence of the mind is a seed cast into the soil of the unseen. Though the world hears nothing, the universe listens intently. Though no sound passes the lips, vibrations are set in motion, weaving the very fabric of one's destiny. Few understand this, and fewer still guard their inner words. Yet it is in the silence of thought and whisper of inner speech that the wealth of life is summoned or denied. Many people imagine that only spoken words carry power, but the true decree is the one repeated within. A man may declare prosperity with his lips yet murmur lack within his heart, and it is the inner murmur that takes root. For it is not the mask of outer declaration, but the deep current of inner conviction that the law obeys. The inner speech is the true prayer, the true command, and the true prophecy of one's life. When the inner words are words of abundance, life becomes abundant. When they are words of fear and want, life bends to lack. The law is impartial, responding with perfect obedience to whatever inner decree is spoken. If a woman continually whispers within, "I cannot afford this, I am always behind. Money slips from me," the unseen obeys her unknowing command. Her world bends to reflect her inner speech, shaping experiences of want and hardship. Yet if she chooses to speak within, my supply is endless. Money flows to me with ease. I walk in plenty. Then the same law moves swiftly to fulfill her inner decree. It is not chance, but speech, not fate, but inner dialogue, that shapes her fortune. Every thought clothed in words is a living seed. Seeds of wealth and seeds of poverty alike wait to grow, and the garden of life reflects what is planted. The careless inner words of complaint, of envy, of fear, sow weeds that choke the harvest. The careful inner words of faith, gratitude, and vision sow fields of plenty. The forgotten truth is that the soil of the unseen does not question the seed. It only brings forth after its kind. The man who sows lack in thought and speech reaps lack. The man who sows abundance reaps abundance. The harvest is always faithful to the seed. It is said, "By your words you are justified, and by your words you are condemned." Many interpret this only of the outer tongue, yet the greater truth applies to the secret tongue within. The inner words justify or condemn, bless or bind, enrich or impoverish. Each silent repetition strengthens the decree until the outer world is compelled to reflect it. This is why a person may struggle to speak affirmations aloud, yet see little change. Because the inner speech runs contrary, whispering doubt, fear, and contradiction. The outer word must be united with the inner. To unlock the law, to master the law of inner speech, one must become watchful. The mind, left unguarded, repeats the old stories of lack and limitation. It rehearses worries, plays again the failures of yesterday, and imagines the troubles of tomorrow. These inner words are commands to the unseen, and they go forth whether the soul intends them or not. To awaken is to take hold of the tongue within, to choose each silent phrase with care, to speak inwardly as though the universe were listening. Because it is. The wealth one seeks is not far off, but already present, waiting for the decree of acceptance. When the inner speech declares, "I live in abundance now," the unseen moves instantly to bring forth evidence. The outer world, being slow and dense, takes time to reflect what has already been commanded, but it cannot resist the decree. It must obey. To hold fast to the inner word is to compel the outer world into harmony. The mistake many make is to abandon the decree when evidence lingers, not realizing the law is already at work, shaping the unseen into the seen. There is power in repetition. Just as a drop of water shapes stone over time, so too does repeated inner speech carve destiny. The words spoken once may fade, but words spoken daily, hourly, continually, form grooves in the unseen, channels through which the river of supply flows. The man who continually speaks wealth within becomes a magnet for wealth without. The woman who continually speaks of blessing within attracts blessing without. The repetition is not vain but creative, a steady drumbeat that summons the army of provision. Imagination and inner speech walk hand in hand. The pictures formed within are clothed in words, and the words give strength to the pictures. A man who imagines himself in poverty and whispers, "This is my fate," makes that image. His reality another who imagines himself surrounded by riches and whispers, "This is my truth," draws that picture into form. Inner speech gives authority to imagination, and imagination gives life to inner speech. Together, they are the architects of destiny. Even silence speaks. The absence of chosen words is filled by the muttering of fear, doubt, and habit. Thus, one cannot be careless, for silence unguarded becomes the workshop of lack. To truly master the law, one must fill the silence with chosen words, words of life and wealth. In every moment of pause, the inner tongue may whisper, "I am provided for, I am rich in every way, my supply is certain." These phrases, repeated silently, plant seeds too strong to be uprooted by the weeds of fear. The world often marvels at sudden changes of fortune, attributing them to luck, chance, or opportunity. Yet behind every so-called miracle lies the law of inner speech. The man who suddenly prospers has long spoken abundance within, until the decree ripened and broke forth in visible form. The woman who receives unexpected gifts has long rehearsed gratitude in silence, preparing her soul to receive. There is no chance in this universe, there is only the law, and the law moves according to the silent tongue within. To understand the law is to understand why many live in constant want. Though they strive outwardly, their inner speech betrays them. They rise each day with thoughts of fear, speak within of what they lack, imagine themselves behind, and thus chain themselves to the very condition they despise. They try to speak prosperity aloud, but cancel it within. The outer effort cannot overcome the inner decree. Only when the inner speech changes does the outer life transform. Thus, the practice is simple yet profound. One must listen to oneself within, hear the secret tongue, and choose it anew. When the thought of fear arises, it must be replaced with a word of faith. When the whisper of lack stirs, it must be silenced by a whisper of plenty. When doubt seeks to murmur, it must be overruled by the steady voice of trust. Over time, the inner landscape is transformed, and with it, the outer world. The law of inner speech is merciful, for it allows change at any moment, no matter how long one has spoken lack within. The decree can be overturned by new words. A lifetime of fear can be undone by a season of faith. The universe does not cling to the past decree when a stronger decree is spoken. It always responds to the present word. This is the grace of the law, that the moment one speaks differently within, the moment the tide begins to turn, every fortune, every empire, every treasure ever held began first as inner speech. The wealth of nations, the rise of dynasties, the prosperity of individuals, all were decreed in silence before they were seen in form. The forgotten truth is that this same power dwells within every soul. No one is excluded, no one is denied. The inner tongue is free to all, and by it each may command abundance or lack. To master it is to master life. The law of inner speech is the true alchemy. It turns invisible words into visible wealth, silent phrases into gold and silver, whispered faith into overflowing supply. It does not fail, for it cannot fail. The universe itself is built on the power of the word, and man, being made in that likeness, creates by the same law. The only question is what word he speaks within, for that word is his world. There is a paradox hidden within the pursuit of wealth, a truth so simple that most overlook it. The harder one clutches at money, the faster it slips away. The tighter one grasps at opportunity, the sooner it dissolves. Yet the moment the hand is opened, the moment the heart loosens its hold, the flow of prosperity begins. This is the key of release, the law that abundance comes not to the anxious grasp, but to the trusting hand. To release is not to abandon, but to surrender fear, doubt, and clutching desire. It is to acknowledge that wealth is not created by strain, but flows by divine law, and when the soul ceases to resist, the river of supply moves freely. Many live as though prosperity were a wild bird that must be trapped, caged, and guarded. They chase after it with nets of fear and chains of worry, hoping to hold it by force. Yet in doing so, they frighten it away. Wealth, like the bird, comes to the one who sits calmly, offering an open hand. It lands gently upon the palm of trust, but flees the grip of desperation. This is why those who are most anxious about money often see the least of it, while those who rest in confidence find themselves continually provided for. Release is not passivity. It is not neglect or carelessness. Rather, it is the active practice of faith. To release is to let go of the illusion that one must control every channel, force every outcome, and guard every coin. The truth is that the channels of wealth are endless, the outcomes already ordered, and the coins ever replenished. When one releases, one ceases to cling to a single path and allows the law of abundance to bring supply through unexpected ways. The very act of loosening one's grip invites more into the hand. Fear is the greatest enemy of wealth, and release is its remedy. Fear says, "If I let go, I will lose." Faith says, "If I let go, I will gain." Fear hoards, hides, and withholds. Believing in scarcity, faith gives, trusts, and releases. Knowing in abundance, the forgotten truth is that life itself is a cycle of release. The tree releases its leaves, and in due season receives new ones. The soil releases the seed, and it returns as fruit multiplied. The ocean releases its waves, and each one returns to shore again. So too must man release, trusting that what is given returns in greater measure. There is also release from attachment to past wounds and failures. Many bind themselves to poverty by clinging to memories of loss, betrayal, or disappointment. They rehearse the pain, clutching it like an old coin, and in doing so, they shut out new supply. To release wealth is also to release sorrow, bitterness, and resentment. The heart that forgives is a heart that opens. Forgiveness is a form of release that clears the channels of abundance. A man who refuses to forgive remains chained, but the one who releases finds both his spirit and his fortune renewed. The key of release applies equally to desire. Desire in itself is not evil, but clutching desire becomes bondage. To want something so desperately that the soul trembles at its absence is to declare to the universe, "I do not have." The law obeys this inner speech and reflects lack. But when desire is released, when one can say, "If this or something better comes, I am content," then the universe is free to provide. Release transforms desire from a cry of lack into an expression of trust. It opens the way for what is truly best, often greater than what was originally desired. Release is also the secret behind generosity. The miser believes that holding fast to every coin will make him rich. Yet his very hoarding cuts off the flow, and his hand remains tight and empty. The generous soul, who releases freely, continually finds more returning. The law of circulation ensures that what is given returns multiplied. Generosity is not loss but investment in the unseen. To release money and joy is to declare trust in abundance, and the law cannot fail to honor such a declaration. The more freely one releases, the more swiftly wealth returns. There is a deeper release still, the release of control. Many believe they must dictate how prosperity comes. Through which channel? From which person? In what form? They limit the law by narrowing its path. Yet, the universe is infinite in ways of provision. When one releases control, one allows wealth to flow from unexpected sources. A forgotten debt may be repaid, a lost opportunity may reappear, a stranger may bring blessing, or an unseen idea may open fortune. To cling to one path is to limit, but to release is to invite the limitless. Release is not only outward but inward. It is the letting go of anxious thought, the releasing of the inner murmur of fear. A man may work tirelessly, give generously, and speak affirmations aloud. But if his heart remains bound with anxiety, he has not truly released. The inner release is the true key, to quiet the mind, to rest in trust, to allow peace to rule within. This is the act that opens the floodgates of abundance. Outward release without inward release is hollow. But when both unite, wealth flows freely and swiftly. The transformation that follows release is often sudden. A person may labor long in struggle, straining to force wealth. But the moment they release, the tide turns. What seemed blocked for years bursts open, as if overnight. The struggle was never against the universe, but against oneself, against the tight grip of fear and control. The instant the grip loosens, the law moves unhindered, and supply rushes in. The swiftness of change often startles. Yet it is only the natural response of the law, finally unbound. Release does not mean abandonment of effort, but the sanctification of effort. A man may labor diligently, but if his labor is anxious, his wealth is hindered. Another may labor with peace, releasing the outcome, and his wealth grows easily. Release does not mean doing nothing. It means doing with trust, acting with faith, working without fear. The farmer plants his field and then releases, knowing the rain will fall and the sun will rise. He does not dig up the seed in worry, but trusts the unseen process. So too must man labor and then release. Leaving the increase to the law, one must also learn to release words once spoken. Many speak affirmations yet then dig them up with doubt, asking, "Will it really happen?" This is not release but resistance. True release is to speak the word of abundance and then let it go, trusting it to return fulfilled. The word is a seed, once planted. It needs no digging or questioning. Only trust. To release the word is to release wealth into the unseen, knowing it will return as visible supply. There is release from comparison as well. Many bind themselves to poverty by measuring their fortune against others. They cling to envy, bitterness, or the belief that others' wealth diminishes their own. Yet the law is infinite, and another's abundance is no threat. Release of comparison frees the soul to receive its own portion, unique and sufficient. The universe has no shortage. Only man's grasping mind imagines one. To release envy is to declare, "There is enough for all, and my share comes to me." This declaration opens the flow where comparison had closed it. In the end, the key of release is a key of freedom. Wealth is not meant to be chased, chained, or hoarded. It is meant to flow, to move, to circulate like breath. To release is to step into harmony with the rhythm of life itself. The tree does not cling to its leaves. The river does not clutch its waters. The earth does not hoard its fruits. All release, and in releasing, all are renewed. The one who follows this rhythm finds himself continually replenished, never empty, always provided for. The key of release unlocks the endless storehouse, not by force, but by trust, not by grasping, but by letting go. There is a current that flows unseen yet unerringly, carrying to each soul the manifestation of its inner life. This current is magnetic in nature, a law of attraction that obeys the vibration of thought with perfect fidelity. Every thought, every mental picture, every inner word sends out a wave, drawing to itself that which corresponds. The rich, the poor, the joyful, the fearful, each is magnetized by the pattern of thought they cultivate. The forgotten secret is that thoughts are never idle. They are alive, moving, shaping, and drawing the outer world to match their invisible form. The world has long underestimated the power of thought. Men labor under the belief that wealth comes only through effort, labor, and circumstance, unaware that the true law is the law of vibration. Thoughts emit a frequency, a signal to the unseen, and that signal attracts experiences, people, and opportunities in exact proportion to its strength and clarity. A man who thinks constantly of scarcity will attract scarcity, just as a man who thinks constantly of abundance will magnetize abundance. The mind is a lodestone, drawing into life the objects and conditions that correspond to its inner state. The thought current is impartial, responding to every mental charge. It does not judge morality or goodness. It merely attracts that which is like itself. A mind steeped in fear, worry, or doubt will draw fear, worry, and doubt into experience. A mind steeped in faith, gratitude, and vision will draw wealth, joy, and fulfillment. The principle is exact. There is no error, no favoritism, no oversight. Whatever one thinks, one attracts, consciously or unconsciously. This is why many struggle without understanding why their outer world is shaped by the inner current they fail to govern. To harness the magnetic current requires awareness. It is not enough to hope or wish. Thoughts must be deliberately chosen, directed, and sustained. Like a lodestone, the mind pulls to itself that which corresponds to its polarity. If the polarity is negative, it pulls lack. If positive, it pulls supply. The difference between those who remain impoverished and those who prosper lies not in opportunity alone, but in the management of this current. Those who master it become architects of their destiny, shaping the unseen flow to bring forth the riches of the world. The current responds not only to conscious thought, but also to habitual thinking. Thoughts repeated daily, hour by hour, create grooves in the invisible ether, forming channels through which life manifests. Negative patterns, repeated in worry, complaint, and fear, deepen into grooves of limitation, while positive patterns, repeated in gratitude, faith, and expectation, deepen into grooves of abundance. The unseen obeys the repeated vibration more faithfully than a single utterance. For consistency establishes the signal, and the universe aligns with it. Visualization strengthens the magnetic current. To see in the mind's eye the reality one desires is to give form to the invisible. Thoughts alone may be weak and scattered, but when combined with the clear image of desire, they become irresistible to the law. A man who sees himself in possession of wealth, living in ease and comfort, thinking thoughts of gratitude and satisfaction, sends a strong magnetic signal that draws corresponding experiences. Imagination is the amplifier of thought, magnifying its magnetic power until the unseen cannot resist responding. The law of correspondence ensures that the current attracts exact likeness. It does not bend to wishful thinking or partial belief. If one desires wealth but inwardly believes it impossible, the inner belief will dominate. The magnetic signal is weakened, confused, and counteracted. Faith, clarity, and alignment of thought and feeling are essential. The soul must not only desire but believe, must not only visualize but feel. For the magnetic current is alive to vibration, and only a pure, undivided vibration compels response. Attention is the fuel of the thought current. The mind, like a lens, focuses and intensifies energy where it rests. A scattered, distracted mind sends out weak, diffused signals, attracting little of consequence. A focused mind, holding to a single vision, strengthens the magnetic field. Every moment spent in thought of abundance is a pulse sent into the universe, summoning provision. Every moment wasted in worry, complaint, or doubt dissipates energy, weakening attraction. Mastery of attention is mastery of the current. For what the mind holds, the universe delivers. Gratitude increases the strength of the current. The one who is grateful for what he has, even the smallest gift, reinforces the vibration of abundance. Gratitude is a positive charge that amplifies the magnetic field. The thought, "I have more than enough," is more powerful than the thought, "I will have more," for it carries the authority of present reality. The universe responds to gratitude as a signal that supply is welcome, that the recipient is aligned with the law, and that more may be added without resistance. The thought current works in cycles. A mental seed planted today may take time to appear in form. Yet the seed is already alive in the unseen. Patience is required, but not doubt. The unseen world grows in perfect accordance with the vibration planted. One may not see the immediate result, but the law is always at work. Every thought, every word, every image contributes to the growing magnetism that will inevitably draw the material equivalent into life. Impatience interrupts only the human expectation, not the law itself. Release of negative thoughts strengthens the magnetic current. Doubt, worry, resentment, and fear act like obstacles in a river, diverting flow and reducing force. To remove them is to allow the current to move freely. Meditation, affirmations, and conscious redirection of thought are methods by which the stream is cleared. A mind disciplined to focus on supply, health, joy, and love becomes a mighty magnet, irresistible to the corresponding forces of life. The current is also amplified through action, in alignment with thought. While thought alone is powerful, thought combined with inspired action is irresistible. The universe responds not only to belief, but to the visible cooperation of the soul. When the mind envisions wealth, speaks affirmations, and then acts with courage and integrity, the current is reinforced. The outer world is drawn into harmony, and opportunities align to match the inner magnetic field. Action is the proof of inner alignment, the confirmation of the signal, the final step in drawing abundance. Those who resist understanding the law often blame circumstance, luck, or others for lack. Yet the magnetic thought current cannot be cheated. No outside force can stop its effect except the interruption caused by disbelief, distraction, or inner contradiction. Each soul is the master of its own field, the captain of its own magnetism. The forgotten secret is that no external obstacle can overcome the invisible law. As the inner current moves, the outer world must follow, obedient to vibration. To master the magnetic thought current is to live in conscious creation. It is to understand that wealth, opportunity, and provision are not accidents, but responses to inner life. Every thought matters. Every inner word, every image, every feeling. Each is a magnet, each is a command, each shapes reality. The soul aligned with the current becomes a living lodestone, attracting wealth, health, love, and joy. The currents of the universe flow to him as rivers to the sea, unstoppable, faithful, and exact. The power of the current is endless. Its reach is universal. One need not know the method by which it works. One only needs to maintain the vibration. Doubt, fear, and complaint weaken it, faith, clarity, and gratitude strengthen it. The magnetic thought current is eternal, impartial, and omnipotent, always drawing to itself that which corresponds. To awaken to this law is to awaken to one's own power, for the current responds to no one but the thought that generates it, and the thought that generates it determines the life that follows. There exists an eternal law, older than empires, older than kings, older than the turning of the stars themselves. A law that governs not only wealth, but every form of provision in the universe. This is the law of the eternal circle of supply. It is a principle of movement, of giving and returning, of flow and replenishment, which ensures that what is released is never lost, but multiplied. The law is impartial, unchanging, and exact. The hand that gives opens the way for the hand that receives, and the energy of provision, once set into motion, returns with a power greater than that which was given. The circle of supply begins with understanding that wealth is not a stagnant possession, but a living current. Money, opportunity, gifts, and blessings are all part of this invisible flow. To hoard them in fear is to interrupt the circle, to block the return. Yet when one practices the law by giving freely, by releasing with trust, and by allowing the movement of the unseen to continue unhindered, the circle becomes complete. The universe, which delights in abundance, responds to this openness by returning what was released, often multiplied, often in ways unexpected. Generosity is the key to entering the circle. The hand that gives in joy does more than aid another. It opens the invisible door to its own increase. Many cling to wealth out of fear, imagining that to release is to lose. Yet the truth is quite the opposite. The one who gives, knowing that supply is infinite, places himself in harmony with the law. By participating in the flow of giving, he activates the eternal circle. The energy moves outward, and in due time it must return. For the law does not allow a break in its rhythm. This circle is eternal because it reflects the nature of life itself. The sun gives light and warmth freely. The rivers flow without hesitation. The soil bears fruit without counting. Nature never hoards but circulates endlessly. The universe mirrors this principle in every corner of existence. Wealth, like life, is a cycle. A river that must move to sustain itself. One who attempts to contain it in isolation opposes the natural law and finds resistance, loss, and limitation. To succeed, one must understand the rhythm of supply, participate in it, and trust that the circle will complete itself. Faith is the force that powers the circle. It is not enough to give physically or to speak words of generosity. The soul must trust the unseen. Faith declares, "I give because the universe is abundant and my supply is assured." The moment this trust is embraced, the law begins to operate. The released energy is drawn into the larger field of abundance, where it multiplies and returns to the giver in ways beyond imagination. Without faith, giving becomes mere transaction. With faith, it becomes transformation. The circle of supply is also a law of measurement. One reaps in proportion to the openness of the heart and the faith with which one gives. A heart half closed will receive half. A heart fully open will receive fully. There is no cap on provision. The universe operates in infinity. Yet the measure of return corresponds to the quality of release. It is not the quantity alone that matters, but the spirit in which it is offered. The hand that releases in joy summons the greatest return. The hand that releases reluctantly summons only enough to satisfy the moment. Another aspect of the circle is timing. The law operates perfectly, but according to its own rhythm. Release may precede return immediately, or it may precede return by seasons. A gift sown today may bloom tomorrow or in years to come. Yet the law is never violated. Whatever is released moves through the unseen channels of supply and eventually completes the circle. Patience is required, but doubt is fatal. The one who trusts the timing, who does not demand immediate proof, participates fully in the eternal rhythm. The law is exact and inexorable. What is given always returns. The circle also teaches the principle of equality. Wealth is not diminished when shared, nor is abundance threatened by the prosperity of another. The universe does not subtract from one to give to another. Each soul has access to the full flow of supply. When one participates in the circle through generosity, one is not taking from a common pool, but aligning with a source that is infinite. The law operates in such a way that all who give and receive in harmony with it find their needs met beyond expectation. Releasing fear is critical to entering the circle. Fear closes the hand and contracts the heart. It binds the energy and prevents the law from completing its rhythm. The soul that fears loss experiences limitation because it interrupts the natural flow. To enter the circle fully, one must trust not only in the abundance of supply, but also in the invisible justice of return. What is released in faith cannot be lost. It is merely traveling through the channels of the universe, returning multiplied, refined, and perfected. The circle is also a law of reciprocity in all forms, not merely material. Love, kindness, thoughtfulness, service, all are part of the eternal flow. Every act of giving, when aligned with pure intention, enters the cycle and returns enriched. The universe operates like an infinite ledger, recording the energy sent forth and ensuring that it returns to the source. A generous thought, a helpful act, a kind word, all contribute to the magnetism that draws prosperity and blessing into the life of the giver. Understanding the circle also frees the soul from worry and greed. When one participates fully in the rhythm, there is no need to hoard, to clutch, or to fret. One knows that supply is continuous, that the flow cannot be stopped by human fear. To trust the circle is to step into freedom. The one who gives without hesitation, who acts with faith, who releases with confidence, finds the flow returning in forms often beyond imagination. It is not a trick or a promise. It is the law in action, eternal, impartial, and perfect. The law is visible in every corner of life. The farmer who plants seeds in spring receives harvest in autumn. The child who shares joy finds joy returned. The generous merchant sees his investments multiply. All of life reflects the principle of circulation, of giving and receiving, of energy moving outward and returning enriched. To ignore it is to struggle, to embrace it is to prosper. Those who master it align themselves with the pulse of creation itself, riding the eternal current of supply with grace and certainty. Even the most desperate situation can be transformed when the law is applied. One who releases debt, worry, or scarcity with faith opens the circle and allows the unseen to work. What seems lost is only delayed. What seems blocked is only waiting for alignment. The invisible machinery of provision begins to move. Unseen currents circulate, and soon the return manifests in ways unimagined. The circle is unbroken, perfect in its operation, and infinitely generous to those who understand its law. The eternal circle of supply is also a teacher of humility. It shows that no one owns the wealth of life. All are participants in a shared rhythm. One does not create abundance alone, nor does one prevent it for another. The law simply flows, and those who align with it experience the fullness of life. To resist, it is to resist life. To embrace, it is to live in harmony with the eternal. To experience prosperity in every dimension, and to understand that supply is never-ending participation in the circle requires conscious awareness. One must not only give but recognize the law at work, affirming trust and faith in every act. Every gift offered with gratitude, every resource released in joy, every act of service extended with love strengthens the current. The more fully one participates, the stronger the flow becomes, and the more abundant the return. It is a dance of energy, a harmony of intention, and the soul that joins and experiences life as an ever-flowing stream of wealth, provision, and blessing. The eternal circle of supply is a law of both simplicity and majesty. Its principle is clear, release and receive, give and gain, trust and be provided for. Yet the subtlety lies in the details. The intention, the faith, the gratitude, and the awareness with which one acts to master the circle is to master life. For it governs not only wealth, but every blessing, every opportunity, and every experience. The flow is constant, the rhythm eternal, and the law faithful beyond measure.